Hello, welcome to Healing with podcast. I am Marissa McDevitt, your host, mindset coach, mentor, and founder of Healing Center. Tired of all the BS? So was I. This podcast is my raw, unfiltered take on life, sharing my personal experiences, lessons, and healing practices that helped me break free from the cycles that no longer serve me. I'm just an average woman who decided to stop settling and start speaking up. Here we dive deep into the messy, beautiful, and sometimes painful realities of life, business, and relationships. No fluff, no judgment, just real talk, real growth, and real transformation. This is a safe space for anyone, women, men, and all the beauties in between. So who's ready to raise their standards, heal, and step into their power? Let's learn, grow, and evolve together. Now tune in and let's talk about it. Why I walked away from my best friend's wedding. Right now, I'm supposed to be at my best friend's bachelorette party, but instead, I'm here recording this episode. This is one of the hardest things I've ever had to talk about, but I know I need to share it. I want to state my intention that this episode isn't about judgment, but it's about the truth, awareness, acceptance, and learning how to stop enabling the people we love, even when it breaks our hearts. If you're watching this video live on YouTube, you're going to see me looking back at my notes. I've journaled about this for 2 weeks. I've tried to record this episode twice now, but I've just cried. My notes are to keep me in line with what I have to say and the storyline of how this became, because I don't want to get too wrapped up in my emotions and forget where I'm at. So if you're watching and you're seeing me look at my notes, this is why. So pretty crazy episode, right? As you heard from my last episode about acceptance and judgment, you kind of heard me talk about a little bit, mention of, why I had the lessons of acceptance and judgment. And this is the full story on what's happened. So I want to give a backstory on me and my best friend of 18 years. So I'm going to call her B in this episode, so, keep things confidential a little bit. So the backstory on me and B, I met her in high school. We were 15 years old. I moved from Phoenix, Arizona to Wisconsin. I came from a big city to a small town. My dad had a fight for 2 years to get me to even live with him. I was going through a lot of trauma, a lot of family issues, and finally my dad got custody of me, so I moved to Wisconsin. I was already in a wild state of mind, coming from all the trauma I just came from. I didn't really go to school much, and I didn't really go to middle school. So coming to Wisconsin and then going to high school freshman year for my first time, living with my dad, living in a new state, all the things, I was going through a lot. B was the first friend I really made in high school. I remember the first day I met her, she turned around, she was sitting in front of me, and she turned around to ask me for my number or something for her friend, her best friend at the time, because he seen me or something. And I just remember her being the sweetest person ever. She was so nice. She was smiling all the time. Super sweet girl. And we became friends. I remember her always coming to school, showing up. I remember her always being happy. And she was just really a stability person in my life. She really showed me like what it is to show up to school, to be a good person, to have friends. Because I really didn't have that. She had a couple best friends at the time, and one of them I'm still friends with to this day. And actually, her best friend then and I are her maid of honors in her wedding. So, as you can see, she's had a long line of friendships. We've all been friends for a lot of years. I was friends with her for, it'll be 18 years. And the other maid of honor, longer. So, that's a lot of years that we've all grown together and whatnot. I remember when I was going through my things, I was drinking a lot in school and smoking a bunch of weed. And she was not a weed smoker. She was not a drinker. She was just a really good girl. She was dating this guy in high school. He was a good kid. And she was just living her life. I remember her telling me immediately how she wanted kids and marriage. And that was her lifelong goal. I mean, she told me this at 15. You know what I'm saying? This has always been her goal. And I always just really appreciated her for that. She had a car, she did good in school, like all these things. She had it because she was very stable and sweet and did good in school. We started hanging out and really getting to know each other and realized that both of our mothers were drug addicts, alcoholics. I found out that she had lost her father when she was around 12, I believe. She found him dead. So not only did she not have a father, she was living in her foster parents' home, which are amazing parents. But she still had a mom that was an alcoholic that she seen. Her sisters were all pill addicts or alcoholics or drug addicts too. And so her and I really bonded over that because my dad and my mom were drug addicts and alcoholics, and my sisters are the same exact thing, pill addicts and everything. And I remember her and I saying how we never wanted to be like them. We were never going to be like them. One of the most beautiful things about B was she never lied. She was always, always wanting to help the environment. She was the one who taught me not to litter. She was very aware of that. She was good in school. I remember we'd be in the car and I would throw a piece of paper out the window and she would just flip on me. How dare you litter the environment? Blah, 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 blah. She literally taught me not to litter. She taught me what it was like to go to school, to do good in school, to have good friends, to be a stable person, to be a good person. Because I didn't have that. I didn't have that, especially coming from Phoenix. I didn't have that. Even when I showed up to school, I was involved in a gang in Phoenix, Arizona, Sorosos 13. And I would wear basketball shorts with a bandana hanging out, a blue bandana of my shorts when I showed up to this Wisconsin school. I would fight anybody that looked at me wrong. I would fight anybody that would look at her wrong. I was very protective over her because she was so innocent and so sweet and special that if anybody ever gave her any issues, I would immediately start attacking them, threatening them, or anything. I was very protective of her. She was my best friend. And then her boyfriend at the time, her high school sweetheart, they were together for some years, the one that she wanted to marry and have kids with, cheated on her. And that's when B changed. She started coming to my parties. I introduced her to weed. I introduced her to drinking. That was how I coped with my emotions and my trauma. That's how she started doing the same. Oh, I'm sorry. As you can see, I've held a lot of guilt from that moment, because I always feel like if it wasn't for me introducing her to weed, then maybe she would have got like counseling or something else. But instead, she kind of just did what I did. I coped with all my trauma with weed and drinking. So she started doing the same. But the difference between her and I was she still showed up to school. She still graduated. She still went to prom and all the beautiful things. Where I was ditching school all the time, fighting, smoking weed constantly, just partying away, not having any intentions to be in school or anything. There was times where I would be ditching school and she would stop me and tell me to stay in class. Because that was just the angel she was. She was my stability. She was my rock. I didn't have that. I didn't have that in my parents. I didn't have that in any friend until I met her. Oh. So that was the difference. She could still come out and party sometimes and smoke weed, but she still went to school. She still did her work. She still showed up as an honest, loving, sweet girl. I remember I taught her how to lap dance at my parties. Oh, we would just give lap dances out with our clothes on. We're just young, wild kids being funny, fun. Oh, I was like the little devil on her shoulder, and she's like the angel, right? Pretty sure we probably were that for Halloween one time. But, let's get back together here. We went through a lot, her and I. There was one time where I drank so much that I fell at a railroad tracks, partying with some guys and friends, and it was like under a bridge, and where that bridge is like brick, and I was like peeing or something, I don't know what I was doing, and I fell into it and scraped my whole entire face. And I was so drunk that I knew it hurt, so like I left, I went to some guy's house, and I showed up the next morning because she would call me to make sure I would go to school. I would ride to school with her. She would make sure that I went to school. So I remember walking, and I said, I was still like half drunk, and I'm like, hey, I think I did something to my face. And she seen me, and of course she was mad at me because of me drinking and everything. And she went inside and got her makeup, and she tried to patch me up and said, okay, what are we going to do when we go to school and people see your face? And I said, I don't know, I'm just going to say I got jumped. And so, of course, we go to school because, she made me go to school. And I lied to people and I said that I got jumped. Well, the word got around. And I got pulled into the office. And I had to tell this whole ass lie that I got jumped and that's why my face looked like this. But really, it was just because I got drunk and fell into a freaking railroad thing. So anyways, they sent me home. Nothing happened. Nobody was hurt. I just said that some gangster kids came and jumped me when I was down at the park. But this was the type of girl she was. Her foster parents took me in at this time because my dad was in and out of jail. He was drinking. That's why I partied so much. And, he said, as long as you party at the house, it's fine. Which I respect that, but he was trying to deal with a crazy teenager, trying to provide, trying to deal with his own traumas on top of me. So her parents took me in. And they helped me go to school. And they helped me figure it out as well for a little bit. But that's who B was. That's how our bond got so close together. And I remember her mom got sick and something happened where she fell and she ended up in the hospital. And I was there with B on the hospital. We were sleeping overnight there because her mom was not doing good. She was in ICU. And I remember waking up to the nurses and them saying, B, you gotta come in there. Your mom's not doing good. And she passed that night. So not only did B lose her dad at a young age, she lost her mom. And that was extremely hard for her. Even though she had foster parents that were amazing, it's still hard to lose your mom and dad at that age. B still handled it. She graduated high school. She went to college. And I might have the timelines a little mixed up when her mom passed, if it was after or before. I can't remember exactly. But she still went to the college she wanted to go to. She ended up dropping out or finishing one semester. I can't remember exactly. But she came back and we moved in together. And that was like one of my favorite, best times in my life, you know. Moving into an apartment with my best friend's sister, like, it was everything I ever wanted. We had literally nothing in the apartment, okay? We were 19 years old. We had garage sale stuff, and we had like Walmart furniture, and we lived off of mac and cheese and ramen noodles. We had bongs everywhere. We were just living it up. We both worked. I didn't even have a vehicle at that time. And we had a blast living together. We partied. We worked. I introduced her to psychedelics. We tripped on psilocybin mushrooms for our first time ever together in our little dinky apartment. It's one of the best experiences ever. We went to our first music festivals together. We dropped acid together. We did it. We did it together. We had a blast. We connected over our family traumas. We suppressed our emotions with, drugs and alcohol. And we partied like rock stars. But the one thing we never did was hard drugs. We never did cocaine or meth or, we never did anything hard like that. We did uppers like MDMA and psychedelics and weed and alcohol, which isn't any better. And music and MDMA and psychedelics were the ways that opened us up, her and I. We danced. We felt free. It was a beautiful experience for some years. And then I started dating this guy. And his best friend was, we're going to call him H for husband, which will be her future husband now. So B is my friend, H is for her husband, which is her boyfriend at the time. I started dating this guy, and his best friend was H. So that's where H and B met, was at our apartment. We would make candy bracelets back in the day. That's what people did at raves. It's called PLUR, Peace, Love, Unity, Respect. And you'd make little custom candy bracelets, and you'd wear them all over your wrists, and you would peace, love, unity, respect. Give people bracelets. It was a thing that candy kids did back in the days in the raves. And I would have candy parties, and everybody would come over, and we would either tie-dye or we would make bracelets. It was a really awesome time. We'd drink and smoke weed, and you name it, we did it. Well, on my 21st birthday, that is when B and H became a couple. And at that time, I was dating that guy at the time. So H and my ex were best friends at the time. So how fun is that, right? My best friend, his best friend, we're all dating. It was so much fun. We all went raving together. We partied together. We went camping together. We fishing together. We went everything we did, we all did it together. It was such a fun, magical time. Snowboarding all the time together. We really did it. We were all super close. Super close. We all went to music festivals together. We had a really fun time. And then my boyfriend broke up with me. That was hard. And H and him had a pact that if one of the guys broke up with one of us girls, the other one would leave the girl too. So when my boyfriend broke up with me, he tried to leave B. And B would not let him because B doesn't like to be alone. And B bonded with him because H also lost his mom at a young age. So she had this bond with him that because they both lost their parents, they both had trauma in their families, they were bonded. And she didn't want to lose another closest person to. She really loved him. Just like I really loved my boyfriend at the time. So she would not let him leave her. He packed his bags to leave and she packed it right back up. And she said, "You ain't leaving, you're not leaving me." And I give her that. Because that was just some dumb kid stuff. Like if you leave the girl, whatever. And my boyfriend at the time, thank gosh he did it. He did it in a really traumatizing way for me. He just kind of broke up with me and left me and didn't talk to me for a month, 6, 7, 8. I don't even think we talked for a year, actually. I was like, no closure, just straight traumatized. I went through it. But I'm so thankful he did because it put me in my first spiritual awakening. I went celebrant for a year and a half. I went into yoga. I went into fitness. I went into eating healthy. I was like detoxing from all different kinds of foods. I really went deep inside myself because I was so messed up from that relationship. I thought I was going to marry him. You know, I was really in love with that guy. It's like my first love. So, you know, now I look back at it, I thank him. I thank him because I'm like, thank you so much for doing it. That exact way. Because I was a stubborn kid. I was a stubborn woman. I needed that kind of situation or experience to happen to trigger my spiritual awakening. Sometimes when we're stubborn or we go through like really hard stuff, you need something really extreme to trigger you into an awakening. And that's what happened. And I'm so blessed. So blessed. I don't take anything back at all. Any of it. So from then, it was hard. I made it really difficult for our friend group because we're all really good friends. But I couldn't stand the sight of him because I was still heartbroken and moving through my own things. I started going over to H's house with B because that's where she would go sometimes. And when I went into his apartment, it was like, smelled like cat pee. It was really gross. His dad was there. The brother was there. I knew there was hard drugs happening, like cocaine. None of them had teeth. He didn't, like H has rotten teeth. So I knew that there was hard drugs. I just didn't think it was, I didn't want to believe it was that bad. Finally, H moves in with B and I into our little apartment. We had a 2-bedroom apartment. And he's working, paying the electric, utilities. Me and B are splitting the rent. And life was good. We were all partying, having fun, fishing. We got really close. H and I actually got really close. I loved him like a brother. Still do. And we bartended together. We closed the bars together, so we would bartend together and close the bar. We'd play darts if it was slow. We could drink on the job in Wisconsin, so we would drink, and then when we would get done, we'd say, hey, let's go fishing at sunrise. So we would come home and we would wake up B and say, hey, can you want to go fishing with us? And she always like worked different shifts than us, so she's like, no, you guys go. And we would go drinking, and we'd take a little cooler, and we'd take my dog or whatever, and we'd go fishing until the sun come up. We had a blast. It was a real special bond between all of us. It really was. And then I started noticing his gambling. I started noticing his ways that he would treat B, telling her to stay home while he went out with his friends and doing cocaine and gambling, but told her to stay home. Barely took her out on any dates, but yet he was out drinking and gambling his money away. And then I realized he was hanging out with this coworker of ours. He started cheating on her with her. I don't know if they actually hooked up, but he was buying her drinks. It was an emotional thing. He would walk her home, buy her drinks, take her out. Although she was a beautiful girl from a different country. I can't remember. So I told B, and her words to me was, I don't believe it unless I see it. And I'm like, okay, why would I lie about that? So of course I got defensive, but I'm like, all right, well, I'll tell you when it's happening. So not even like the next night or something, we were all working, and he gets off and he's at the gambling machine, and there the other girl is, and they're sitting at the bar, and he's buying her drinks. I'm bartending, I'm serving them. So I'm texting B like, hey, get down here, this is happening. She's refusing to come down to the bar. So I'm like, okay. So I finish my shift. They're all out on the patio, drinking, having a good time. And he tells B to stay home because he's going out to the clubs tonight. And guess who he's bringing? The other girl. So I text her, what are you doing tonight? And she's like, oh, I'm staying. And I said, you know that H is going out tonight? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, so why aren't you going? She said, he had to stay home. Well, you know he's taking her, right? No, he's not. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my mother. Okay. So now I've always been protective of her. So I finish my shift. I go out. Then in front of everybody, I threatened the girl. I said, hey, he's dating my best friend, my sister. If I see you guys hanging out anymore after tonight, I will beat the crap out of you. I said, and you're done too. That's what I told him. I said, don't ever let me catch you guys again. And I went home. And when I went home, I told her, he is at the bar with her right now. Go find out for yourself. So she finally confronts him, and he tells her that if she doesn't like it, if he can't be friends with her, then he's going to leave her, that he's going to break up with her. And what does B do? Say, fine. Fine, you can be friends with her. I lost it. That's when her and I started fighting. So I'm like, what is wrong with you? So then not even a few weeks later, I get a friend that comes to me, a dear friend of mine, and tells me, hey, H and the other guy that's living with you, because we always had people living on our couch. We always took everybody in. We had somebody living on our couch at all times. And they said, hey, H and the other guy that's living there, they're smoking crack. And it just hit me. I'm like, duh. No teeth. The brother, the dad, the cat piss in the house. The way he's been acting, because he was like tweaking out for a while. I'm like, of course he's smoking crack. So immediately I go and tell B, like, hey, he's literally smoking crack and he's cheating on you. What more do you need? She wouldn't believe me. She said if I didn't see it, it didn't happen. So I got mad. I packed her crap up. I packed his crap. I threw it out on the lawn. I was like, screw both of you. You're both blah, blah, blah. I went nuts. Well, they ended up moving out, obviously, because it just got really bad at the house. Obviously, I was just not having both of them. So they moved out. And when they're moving out, I wrote B a 3-page letter. And I went to our favorite lake. We sat by the trees. And I read this letter to her, explaining how I love her and how he is not good for her. He's literally smoking crack, cheating on you, can't hold a job, gambling his money away. And she looked at me and said, I choose him over you. Because I think I did tell her, like, you have to choose me or him. Because that's just, young. And obviously she chose him. And so we did not talk for a long time. We did not talk for over a year and a half. It sucked. It sucked so bad. I missed her so much. I mean, she was like my sister. I just didn't understand, like, how she could live like this. Why does she want to be with someone like this? During all this time, he's just telling her I'm crazy and making all this stuff up, right? Because that's what liars and drug addicts do. And she believed him. I think. Or she just didn't want to be alone, now that I think about it. But whatever. Fast forward, I finally decided, like, hey, I miss her so much that if you want to be with a deadbeat drug addict, crack smoking cheater that can't hold a job, fine. But I want my sister back. I miss my best friend.